hope you're all having a fantastic day and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm showing you guys a brow tutorial, mainly because they are super sparse right now. For those of you who don't know, which I feel like by this point most of you would, I have Trichotillomania, which basically means that I pull out either my brows or eyelashes sometimes. Some people that have it also pull out their hair as well. For me, it's mainly my brows and lashes. So there are times in my life where my brows look pretty sparse, other times they look pretty normal. Right now they're looking sparse, so I wanted to do a tutorial showing you guys how I make my brows look a little bit fuller, and I feel like they look, somewhat natural. They're a little bit more fierce than usual, at least this one is. But I'm going to show you guys how I do my brows and explain what I would do if I'm like running late out the door, want to do a 2-minute brow versus like a 5 to 10-minute brow. I hope you guys are excited for this brow tutorial, and let's get started. I seriously look so crazy with only one eyebrow on. Today we're using the Bottom Ass Brow Set by Desi Perkins and Benefit. Honestly, the biggest reason why I got this is because I've been using these products for over a year. I love them, and everything that came in the kit I knew that I would use, so that's why I bought it. Today we're using the Foolproof Brow Powder. We're also using the Ka-Brow and the Precisely My Brow Pencil that all comes in this kit. So if you're new to brows and you don't know where to start, having a kit like this is great because there's so many different brow products out there and so many different like textures to use. All three of these will achieve a completely different brow style, shape, textures. So if I'm on my way to work and I don't have a lot of time, what I'll do is just throw in one of those brow pencils into my bag, take it with me to work, honestly do my brows in the car. It takes about a couple minutes, but with that, what I'll do, I'll show you guys later too, but I have a couple different techniques to do to make your brows look a little bit fuller. But since I do have more time, I'm going to show you guys my longer tutorial on how I do my brows if I have a little bit more time. Starting off, I'm using the Benefit Foolproof Brow Powder. This is in the shade 5. It might be kind of hard to tell with this one. It might be easier with some of the lighter shades, but the color here on the left is a little bit lighter and the one in the back here on the right is a little bit darker. So actually, I love the way this is shaped. I feel like it's really easy to see what you should do with your brows. You want to put down this lighter part in the front half of the brow, and then on the back half you want to put the darker part. So just starting off, and I'm using an Anastasia 14 brush. This kit does come with a brush. To be totally honest, it's not my favorite. I like to have a more precise pencil or brow brush. It's not a pencil. I like to have a more precise brush, so that's why I'm using this one, just because I feel like the tip is pretty fine and it's easier for me to create those hair-like strokes. And honestly, the brush in the kit works just fine. I'm just a little bit picky. So I'm just starting off here in the front half of my brow. And I want to start at the bottom of my brow, and that's typically where you shape and define your brows. When I was working for Sephora, I had a manager who was teaching me all about color and makeup and how to properly apply different products and makeup. He explained to me that when you define your brows, you want to start at the bottom, and you want to use less product at the top. That makes it look a little more as natural as possible. This one I went a little heavy-handed on, I'll be totally honest. So we'll try to go a little bit lighter on this side. And luckily, I still have somewhat of a shape, so I can kind of see where my brows like should be. Makes it a little bit easier. So I'll start at the base and really brush it upwards. This way it kind of fades out and does that technique that I was explaining earlier, where your brows are more defined at the bottom and a little bit lighter at the top. Now I'm using the darker part in the back half of my brow. This tutorial may seem different from other tutorials you have seen, mainly because I'm truly showing you guys all the footage of me doing my brows. The only moments I'm cutting out are the parts where I like dip back into the product before applying it to my brow. Most oftentimes, I'll do this and other creators will too when they're creating tutorials. They'll cut out the pieces where they're just blending or doing their brows, and they'll just give you a snippet. But for the purposes of this video, I really want to show you guys how long it does take me to fill in my brows. So if you have naturally full brows, this might be as far as you want to go. I know for me, when my brows are a little bit fuller, this is about all I do. It's a really great and easy brow. It looks a lot more natural, I would say, than what I'm going to do today. But again, if you have more sparse brows, you're kind of going to want to add that texture that most people have with thick brows. But if you don't have brows, you have to add in that texture somehow. So I'll be showing you how I go in with the Ka-Brow and also the brow pencil to add back in that texture that you would naturally have with thicker brows. Now I'm taking my Ka-Brow brow gel, and I'm also using a Sigma winged eyeliner brush E06. It has a really, really fine tip. It's probably really hard to see, but I found recently when I've been using this, it's just so much easier to do my brows. I'm dipping that brush into the brow. Hopefully you guys can see a little bit better being a little bit more zoomed in. But basically what I'll do, if you notice, brows will typically go upwards in the front and they'll start to go sideways and down towards the back. So what we're going to do is kind of recreate that natural brow shape. You definitely want to start off more light-handed because it's so easy to get it dark pretty quick. And it's okay to be really sloppy with this and with your strokes because brows aren't naturally perfectly even. So if you have some spacing between, that's kind of what you want. You don't really want to draw a thick line and just fill them in. You want to kind of create that gap and that depth too. So as you can see, there's little spots where my brows are darker and lighter. That kind of gives it more of like a naturally full look. So that's about as much as I'm going to do with the brow. And last, I'll go in with the brow pencil. The whole point of using the pencil is just to add some depth because it's a little bit of a different color than the brow. So again, you're just gonna add it in those strokes. Starting from the bottom and going upwards, you're just gonna flick up the pencil upwards. I'm not gonna go too crazy here since I already did the brow. Maybe using this to kind of shape out my tail. And that's it. So that is how I've been doing my eyebrows. As you could tell when I was using the brow and using the brush and I was really flicking it upwards, I'll basically do that technique with just my brow pencil if I'm in a rush in the morning. Also, if you're using different pressures when you're holding the pencil, so if you start off lighter towards the front and then also add in some strokes where you're pressing down a little bit harder, it'll add that depth and dimension too. For example, I'll use the back of my hand. You can add in brow strokes that are really, really light, but then you can also add some other ones in that are really, really dark. And as you can tell, it adds a little, it's hard to see because it's like not focusing. It adds in some different textures. Even using just the same product, you can really get a different look for it and even add in some darker colors. So I would just play around with this tool, especially if you do have sparser brows, and play around with using different pressures when you're applying it. That way it'll make your brows look a little bit more textured, have some more depth, and maybe make them look a little bit fuller too. That's it for my brows, so I will be right back to show you guys the finished makeup look. Thank you all so much for watching this brow tutorial. I hope it was helpful and informative and maybe you learned a few new tricks that you didn't know before. I know for me when my brows are looking more sparse, it can be pretty frustrating and difficult just to make them look what I feel like is normal. Because even this I feel like isn't totally normal, but it's as good as it's gonna get for me. And I know some of you are in the same boat and may be frustrated too. So I hope this helps you guys. Thank you all so much for watching this video and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!